Hello everyone, my name is Aðalbjörg Ýr Sigurbergsdóttir and I'm a medical student at the University of Iceland and a member of the iSTOP-MM research team. Today I want to present to you our abstract from this year's ASH called Estimating Selection Bias in Previous Monoclonal Gammopathy of Undetermined Significance Research, the Importance of Screening. Results from the population-based screening study, Iceland Screens, Treats, or Prevents Multiple Myeloma. So, monoclonal gammopathy of undetermined significance, or MGUS, is a plasma cell disorder preceding multiple myeloma and related disorders, present in around 3 to 4.5% of the general population over the age of 50. MGUS is usually asymptomatic and is therefore typically diagnosed incidentally during clinical workup for other unrelated medical problems. And although asymptomatic, MGUS has been associated with various medical problems, such as thrombosis, infections, neuropathies, bone fractures, and so on. However, the most previous studies have been made on clinical cohorts and have left out the undiagnosed individuals with MGUS. We believe this may have led to selection bias in previous studies on MGUS. And this brings us to the aim of this study, which was to estimate the possible selection bias in previous studies on MGUS by comparing individuals with incidentally diagnosed MGUS or clinical MGUS with those diagnosed by systematic screening. So in our iSTOP-MM study, we have screened over 75,000 individuals over the age of 40 for MGUS. For this study, we gathered information on which of our participants had previously been diagnosed with MGUS from the only 2 laboratories in Iceland that perform serum protein electrophoresis, the diagnostic test that is essential for the diagnosis of MGUS, and retrieved comorbidity data from 2 very high-functioning and high-quality national registries. This study cohort consisted of just short of 3,300 individuals with MGUS, whereof 224 had previously been diagnosed with MGUS. And when we compared the 2 groups, we saw that the clinical MGUS group was significantly older and more likely to live in Iceland's capital area. Their M protein was quite similar between the 2 groups. However, the clinical MGUS group had a slightly higher M protein concentration compared with the screen group. And to the most interesting part of the study, the clinical MGUS group had a higher number of underlying comorbidities compared with the screen group. And when we look at specific comorbidity categories, we see that the clinical MGUS group was more likely to suffer from arrhythmias, chronic kidney diseases, endocrine disorders, heart failure, neurological diseases, and rheumatological diseases. And this is quite interesting because many of the diseases or medical problems previously associated with MGUS fall under some of these categories. So we conclude that our study results suggest selection bias in previous studies on MGUS, and think that maybe the associations between MGUS and various medical problems might not be as strong as previously stated. We also believe that this highlights the importance of screening studies to evaluate the true epidemiological and biological implications of MGUS. So lastly, I'd like to thank our collaborators and sponsors, especially the Black Swan Research Initiative, the International Myeloma Foundation, and of course Binding Site for making the iSTOP-MM study a reality. I'd also like to thank the IMF for inviting me to this webcast, and of course you all for listening, for your interest and attention. Thank you.